Wait, hold up. Living in the last days and time, you have to know that you're going to be tested. But you must make sure that your faith is strong. Stay prayed up and fasting to be able to resist the devil when he comes near. Miss Celestial back with another prophetic message. Check this out.
Before I started the prophecy, I asked the Lord, is there anything you want me to tell them? And he said to tell them that they will be tested. He said, tell them that they will be tested. Tell them that they will be expressly tested in everything. They will be tested in what they say. They will be tested in what they watch. They will be tested in what they think. They will be tested in the choices that they make. They will be tested in everything that they do. And it is wise for them to walk their time out knowing that everything is a test. Don't take anything for granted. Do not misdiagnose who Jesus Christ is. Don't run that risk. Don't do it. Misdiagnose your boss at work. Get everything about him wrong, but get into this Bible and find out who this Jesus Christ is. And do not misdiagnose who he is, what he will do, both in blessing and in judgment, to both the righteous and the unrighteous. Don't do it. Do not do it. And so I saw that teachers and students alike in this building were being affected because the landscape had changed so suddenly. It changed without warning. And what's more, the floor did not return to its original setting. So it did not go back to being flat. So this, if you've heard nothing else in this dream, just by hearing that the floor did not go back to being flat, that just kills all the we're getting back to normal. Remember those lies of 2020? We just do this, do this thing that we haven't tested because it's going to get us back to normal. And then you do the thing and then they're like, yeah, about that one more thing. And then we'll get back to normal. So it's these moving goalposts, and people without wisdom keep following the moving goalposts, the inevitable carrots. Just do this. And then we get back to normal. And so the floor did not go back to normal. It did not return to its original plane. It did not return to stillness or its original setting. And as long as I was inside the building, the floor did not get flat again, but it kept increasing the gradient. This is telling you that for as long as you're breathing on this earth, if you are waiting for, oh no, but when are things going to, Celestial, I've heard the prophecies and I believe you 150%, 200%. But at what point will things go back to normal? Please read your Bible. When the end times get going, they're not going to stop. The thing is called beginning of sorrows, meaning that's the opening number. What is a sorrow? It is a great, great pain upon the heart. And it says the beginning. So what do you think is coming next? A second sorrow, and then a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and a 19th, and a 900th. And then on top of that, it tells you birth pains. What are birth pains like? Have you ever seen a woman go into labor and then after an hour or two, she was like, whew, that was rough. And then she has a burger and goes to sleep? When birth pains start, they increase in severity, they increase in speed, size, frequency until they reach an inevitable conclusion. Birth pains are going somewhere. It's going to a great event, the arrival of a new person. And so once they get started, there's no force on earth that can stop them because they are birth pains. Your Bible tells you what time you are in. Why then will you ask? At what point does it get better? It gets better when Jesus is here. It gets better when he comes back and wins the whole thing. So when it's starting now, falling prices, rising prices, falling jobs, closing stores, bankruptcy, bank collapses, it's not getting better. It's not going into a utopian time just now. It's going to go into a dystopian time where they're going to attempt a false peace and bring their AI lifestyle, but it's not going back into a normal setting. And this is what God is showing with the floor. And he's showing that it's affecting small and great. It's affecting the teachers in this building, and it's affecting the students. Another thing I noticed is that as I was walking on this floor, people kept bumping into me. So this is from before the floor was flat, even when the floor was flat. I was looking from an aerial view, and I noticed that people were going deliberately out of their way to bump into me. They were hitting me in my shoulder. They were hitting me in my hip. They were hitting me around my knee, trying to trip me up with my ankle. They would move out of their normal path of walking when they saw me coming, and they would try to bump me here, hit me really hard. Even men were doing this. Okay. So it's not just women were doing it. It was even men, and especially men, hitting me here. And sometimes they would hit me so hard that my whole shoulder would go back. And sometimes I would really want to turn around and respond to that person. But always there seemed to be some kind of force on my book bag. some kind of force, just like a parent would yank a child back and say, oh, no, you don't. Something would pull on the red book bag and just keep me focused on where I was going and going up, focused on just walking straight and then eventually going up. And once the floor started to tilt, I noticed that deliberate bumping, that deliberate hitting. One person hit me so hard, a black man, he hit me so hard that I spun back with my shoulder a little bit, but I just kept going by this time. And also I was now able, after a while, I would see when they start to move into my lane, and I would just twist my shoulder or just get my leg out of the way, and then they would swing and there would be nothing, And so that was happening. And eventually, when the floor began to tilt, everybody began to focus on their own thing. Everybody began to focus on their own walk, to stop sliding, or at least to keep an upward momentum. But levels, there's those who absolutely don't need to get hurt, who are going to get hurt just because they love the streets. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. You absolutely know that I'm talking to you. You love a good shower. You love a good scent. You love a good spray. You love a good dress that leaves nothing to the imagination. You love to get out there. You love the drinks we're drinking and the cocktails we're cocktailing. You're all over TikTok. We can't get away from you that love the street. Not only do you love the street, but you don't understand that the predators love that you love the street. They love your TikToks. They love to actually mark all your locations because they know it's as good as done that they will meet you in those spots. We've seen the movies where the man follows the woman for a month and knows her patterns, and then he simply shows up to golf one day and goes, wow, I just started to pick this up as a hobby, but I didn't know the instructors were so beautiful. That man isn't at the yoga place for you. He's at the yoga place because you match the blonde person who's on the wall in his basement. He's already killed 5 people. You're the blonde one. He's got the brunette. He's got the redhead. He's got the Japanese one. He's got the black one. You're the last one for his serial killer boxed set. These people are mapping out location. They are mapping out pattern. And the prey is not thinking. It happens outside the home and it happens inside the home. A lot of domestic violence, a lot of the domestic violence that turns fatal, it turns fatal on a hairpin. It turns violence on a hairpin. A man who has never hit you before, a woman who has never struck her child before. What is the explanation for these older brothers that are raping their younger sisters and their younger brothers? What is the explanation for it? What is the explanation for that 17-year-old boy, either last year or this year, that killed all his parents' children? He killed all his parents' younger children. He was not from a separate mom and dad. The only survivors are the mother and the father, and the boy is doing some unbelievable long sentence right now in prison. What is the motivation and the thinking for that? How do we explain that? Recent breaking case. Man calls the police on himself. He calls the police on himself. Yes, hello? Very, very cultured, very well spoken. Telling the police that they need to come and get him. They need to come and pick him up. Why? He's killed his wife and his stepson. Grown woman, the boy looks about 15 or 16. They are no more. Another situation, an older woman. She was in her 50s, 55 to be exact. This just happened. 55 years old, has one daughter, and the daughter herself has children. So sometimes you have children young. It does happen. You have children young, you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing, but you give birth to your daughter, you raise your daughter well, and then your daughter has 3 kids. One who's seems to be grown, about 20, 21, and then younger ones, like a 5-year-old and maybe an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old. And then grandma, she has her daughter, she has her grandkids, happy family, and then she meets someone much younger than her, a 34-year-old man, and they start a relationship. I hope you're hearing all this. I'm talking about what the fancy term is intimate partner violence. This is domestic violence. It's taking place whether people are practicing righteous lives. It's taking place whether people are practicing unrighteous lives. She meets someone who's 34 years old and they strike up their thing and they're having the relationship. And then the older woman probably got tired of the guy. She got tired of his antics. Whatever the reason was, she said she was breaking it off. She said she was breaking it off. And what did this guy do? What happens when the woman says she's breaking it off? What is the next step? Then it's broken off. What is the next step when the man says it's broken off? It's broken off. Why then are people responding in these, I can't even call it wildly inappropriate ways? Why are people responding with death? Why are people responding with murder? Why are people responding with setting other people on fire? Why did this young man go and wipe out the woman's entire family? He catfished her to the house. He went and got into that house because obviously the woman's daughter knew him. Gets in there where the lady is, the daughter is with her 2 children, and then gets the grandma to come over. Kills her daughter and kills the woman's grandchildren, making her look as punishment, and then kills her too. So the only person that is alive is the older daughter, who now has no mom, no grandma, and no siblings. And what I said to the intercessors on the line is, I said, are we absorbing, are we allowing this stuff to come in and settle where it needs to settle, so that it turns into not just, because people love words. I see it under these videos, under these news clips, because I'm curating these news clips to put them into reels, to show that I was speaking about the fact that we were going to go right out of normal crime into the details of things that you can't believe. I said that we were going to exit the door where the police could say it's a standard jealousy this, it's a standard jealousy that, and they were going to start to come into mass wipeouts. I spoke of the mass wipeouts that fathers in particular, men in particular, are going to do. That the police will come to crime scenes where there's absolutely nobody breathing. There's nobody living, nobody left. And then I said entire neighborhoods, rich neighborhoods, quiet neighborhoods, well-off neighborhoods, lower class neighborhoods, everybody would be shocked. But here's the thing. We had a person who was set on fire recently. You look at the news clips, everybody's like, it's really sad. It's really sad. It's really scary. Oh, it's just terrible. And I'm thinking, Lord, these are just boilerplate responses, because people don't actually want to allow their brains to accept the kind of climate in which people get set on fire in public and then other people are recording it. What are you recording it for? Because when we record, there's the intent that I'm going to use this later, I'm going to upload this later, or I'm going to share this with others, or I'm going to watch this back myself. This is a moment I wish to capture so that I can look at it again. Why are you recording a human being burning to death? The same way that people in Philly recorded the woman who was being raped from multiple train stations. Why are we recording and live streaming murders? Because the climate has changed. The spiritual climate has changed. The spiritual madness is here. And the Lord's concern, which I could not apprehend fully when he said, talk to them about domestic violence. The Lord's concern is that the spiritual climate is changing and the spiritual people are not. The spiritual climate is changing. The spiritual climate is turning into exactly what it was prophesied to turn into. 51 men, that French man, Mr. Pellico, 51 men. That is who they caught. 20 of the men are on the run in France, avoiding the criminal prosecution that goes along with facing responsibility for joining in cahoots with this married man who for the last 20 years or so has been bringing in men from the random streets to sleep with his drugged wife. This is his wife. This man was just caught, we would say randomly, but I know it's not random. I know that it is God's time for everything to come out. God always has said on this channel that there would be a reckoning. Whether it was sexual molestation inside the family, Whether it was knowing who the molester was and protecting them, God says that the time is now for all the dirt to come out, for all the rot to come out. But as the rot is coming out, it's overwhelming. And so most people are giving it boilerplate. And this includes Christians. Oh, that's so sad. Are you seriously saying that it's so sad when somebody kills somebody else's entire family in retaliation for the fact that she said, I don't like you anymore? You now need to stop calling me. You now need to walk out of my life and see if you can find another girl who likes you. And then is this a sign? Please tell me, is this a sign of mental balance? Because there's some out there who will listen to me and think, oh, it's a certain demographic. It's them. No, it's everybody. It's people that you know. It's people that you know. It's black people. It's white people. The people who just got a 100-year sentence for basically buying babies to sodomize, they're white. The one who just shot the entire family, they're black. The woman who drove on the highway and opened the door and rolled her baby out of the car this year, she rolled both her children out of the car and the infant died. And the younger one was trying to catch her baby brother and protect him. The older sister, and she was a child herself, under 10, under 12, trying to protect her baby brother. She survived being pushed out into oncoming traffic. The baby, the 6-month-old, didn't have a shot. That person was black. The various Phils and Verns who are shooting their entire families. I'm talking about wife, 3 children, dog. They're white. There's no color, because the thing that is entering into people to make them do this inside the family structure doesn't have a color. A little girl, she stabbed her brother multiple times this year. Who remembers the girl who stabbed her 9-year-old brother to death? And then immediately the cops came. She put on an Oscar-worthy performance. I'm just a child, she said, knowing that the dash cam, knowing that the body cam is on. I'm just a child. I'm just a child, she starts out with. You're just a child who knew enough to throw the murder weapon into the bushes. That's a little white girl. The boy who jumped on a 33-year-old woman and raped her early morning when she was heading out for her early morning shift, dragged her into the bushes and raped her until the sun came up. 15 years old. He was black. America wants to placate herself that it's based on demographic, it's based on race, it's based on background, it's based on social conditioning, it's based on the fact that this country is a cesspool, a toilet, and now it is being flushed. Doors are open inside the people because the sin won't stop, because there's no repentance, because there's no holiness. And what God is saying to us here is that this thing can and will enter homes. I'm talking to you, Christian women. I'm talking to you who like to act more holy than Mary, Ruth, and Naomi mixed into one. You will see signs in front of you. You will see bald-faced facts in front of you that man is turning violent, that man is turning malevolent. And yet you will say, God wouldn't let you. Cannot presume upon the Lord in this manner. You cannot do it. You cannot presume upon the grace of God in this manner. I sitting here with the expectations that I have of God, it already dawned on me, Celestial, you cannot presume upon the grace of God. You cannot walk around and say, because I am the called, anointed. There's nothing like that. I would be a fool too. I've already apprised myself of the steps I need to take. One of those steps has definitely been to minimize, to cut down to next to nothing my use of the New York City train system. If it's evening time, I'm not getting on that train, because I don't want to be a part of what I will just call probability 100K. Probability 100,000 women raped in the United States in the month of December, in the month of February 2025, in the month of July 2025. I'm not trying to put myself in that pool. It has been to take the hard steps, to make the hard decisions, to say, okay, early morning, no problem. There's lots of us. You think like that, you get on the train, and then there's a shooter on the train. Somebody's just loosing bullets in the train system. Everybody's diving for cover. You're looking at the TikTok, then you're thinking, okay, so it's clearly not time-based. It's not time-based. Morning, evening, anything could happen. So then it's, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow time. It's definitely time to understand that the majority of the work has to be done in the prep. It's one thing to guard against what's happening outside. What are you going to do with poisoners on the inside? What are you going to do with enviers on the inside? What are you going to do in situations where the rapist is the husband, where the rapist is your father? The rapist is your mother's brother who fell down on his luck, and then your mother spoke to your father and said, please, he's my younger brother. Please, we have a spare bedroom. Please, the kids love him. And the kids do love him, but that's because he's never been given an opportunity with them before to actually live near them. He's always been working. He's always been in the next town. Then he enters the house, and then for the first time, he starts to notice that the 14-year-old, her chest is growing. It only takes a moment to defile or despoil a child, a 14-year-old girl, a 9-year-old little boy. It only takes a moment. A couple just learned that. They dressed up their 3-year-old and they were going to make a run outside, and then they noticed, we forgot this for her diaper bag, or we forgot this. And for some insane reason, both of them go inside the house. The girl's already in her car seat. She's already strapped in. She's already everything. Mom and dad decide to step in the house for a moment to get an object and come back, and a strange man has put himself in the back of the car and has taken all the little girl's clothes off, and his bottoms are off. You're asking, how long did they stay in the house? This is the nonsense that was in the comment section. But then how long were they in the house precisely? Because this story isn't making sense. People who have that kind of conversation, I've already said what God is going to do with those people. Forensic detectives, those who cannot understand information put forward, and they think that this type of heinous stuff is tough to troll with, it's tough to laugh with. Under the South African murders, people were saying, well, I think I understand the guy. He was frustrated. We're talking about murder, and the South African men and quite a few women are in the comments and saying, but what had she done before he killed her? What had she done? Because, the guy didn't stick around long enough to give us his point of view. So what had she done? What did she do to get herself killed? People who do that, the thing that the murderer didn't get, you that are still alive with a mouth like that, it will obviously be your ending. What is the situation where parents go in and come back and somebody, so then instead of saying, oh, it's terrible, which is the knee-jerk response, then the mature brain, the brain that wants to add just a few more layers to the situation, is thinking, oh, so now this is a situation where we're installing cameras. We're definitely installing something. Because first of all, how did this man get into somebody's house? Is it a house with a street? Here in America, we just have the houses and the driveway. So the car's in the driveway, but then you duck into the house. First of all, nobody's outside with the baby. But then second of all, even if you're ducking in, even if you kept the door open and mom is in the hallway with an eye on the car or whatever, why didn't you lock the car for the 2-3 seconds? This is the sloppiness that I was talking about, that it will just take a moment for your stove to come on and burn the house down and kill everybody in the house. What is speaking to the mindset of a guy that is walking? How is he walking by? Setting where people are deliberate about catfishing. They're deliberate about tracking a victim. They're deliberate about monitoring a victim, learning her habits, learning her coming and her going. And so you, on the other hand, for instance, as a female, what are you deliberate about? Are you deliberate about your safety? Are you deliberate about the people that you associate with? Are you so busy rich man hunting that it doesn't matter whether you hunt and snare a predator, whether you hunt and snare a narcissist? A lot of these relationships that young people, not even young people, women of all kinds, are caught up in the game of hypergamy, which is trying to elevate your life and trying to elevate your status by a deliberate game plan to isolate and catch for yourself a rich fish. It's not left to chance, It's carefully planned. There's a game plan to it. And I shared in another video that I just got done watching on domestic violence, because my heart has just been coming this way. It is called The Wealthy Side of Death. I was sharing just organically by the Holy Spirit in that video the verse, that the Bible scripture that says that, to the merciful God will show himself merciful. But then at the end of that 4-piece verse, it says, and to those who are crafty, God will show himself shrewd, which means that you will set a trap for seduction, but the person who will be caught and snared by what you will lure into that trap is yourself. I said that these rich men, not all of them are killers, but I said that money dulls the righteousness inside a man. It is very hard to find a wealthy person, male or female, even young people who are wealthy, who's not hardened and calloused on the inside with money, because money by its general application tends to corrupt human beings, because money has a spirit to attach to it that is called mammon. And so I said that as you're setting this trap of seduction, as you're setting this trap to get yourself what you think you want, what you think you need, that person will walk you down the aisle, and then sometimes inside of 2 years you're chewing something that is so bitter. And that person has got you locked up tight in so many NDAs and other things that they get you to sign, that sometimes your life is bitterness. Your life is as a princess. You have everything, but then you're stuck in a relationship where the person regularly beats you. The person regularly beats you and then tells you to dress up your eye with all the latest palettes from all the Kylie Jenners. He'll buy it for you. And then you will find yourself an imprisoned doll. That person will threaten your family. That person will threaten the child that you have together. These men are killing their own children. They're using their children as bait. They're using their children as pawns inside the relationship, knowing that even if a girl is 25 or whether she's 45 when she's made this bad decision, it will kill her on the inside to know that this man is a threat when he's telling her there's cameras in this house, there's trackers on your car. I've got technology from Dubai that the police will not be able to get that tracker that I've put. I've got people that follow you. You come home and your husband just lets you know, how was Target today? And then how was Pilates? And how was this and that? And he names even when you stopped off to get your Chick-fil-A cheat meal, this man knows about it. This is a form of domestic violence, even if the person is not beating you, because it is a form of narcissistic manipulation that actually creates very high walls in the minds of the victims. And many people, because of their love of money, because of their love for things, because of their love of, I need to be elevated, I can't have this 9-to-5 post office worker job, I can't have this, I'm never going to make corporate, it seems like I'm never really going to make VP or something, I need something. And also you're consuming content that is very much affecting the way you think. The content that a lot of people, male and female, consume, it affects the way you think. So then how do all these various factors, and I haven't even touched on all of them, how are these things playing into the probability set? If a particular number of people were going to get beaten, we're going to get stabbed multiple times, we're going to get set on fire, we're going to get dismembered, going to have their body parts thrown around the city that they live in from an intimate partner, somebody that they've met, they're attracted to, and then they decide to get involved sexually with this person, and then violence ensues. Or if it's happening in a family setting, a woman has been with a man for a long time and the man has now changed, or the man was already a certain way but he has now worsened. If that probability set has people in it that are going to get hurt, how does a believer, how does a person who's not, for instance, in a marriage, how does that person reduce the size of the probability set when it comes to them? The probability set in reality exists. It exists. It's already there. If it's going to be 100,000 people in a nation, it's going to be 100,000 people in that nation. The pressing question is, how do you reduce that 100,000 to less than 10 for you? Because you can't reduce the 100,000. What you can do is you can then start to live a life. You can then start to implement practices. You can then start to carry yourself in a way that will extricate you from there That probability set, even if you come out of it, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to stay at 100,000. Do you know why? Because there is a woman out there that doesn't listen to stuff like this. And even when she comes across it, her heart is like a nut. It's like the skin of a coconut, because she's already consumed other content that told her that someone speaking like this is stuffy, controlling, old-fashioned, out of the game. That person may not have a relationship with Jesus Christ at all. That person may have a very fake relationship with Jesus Christ. That kind of person, you know them, the guy upstairs, that person is not a Christian. I see anybody doing that, I just know that's nonsense. Those people are not Christians. Jesus Christ will never be the guy upstairs. Those who know him, those who are walking in intimate partnership with him, would never actually be dealing with him like that, because the closer you get to Jesus, the sweeter his presence is, and the higher also your appreciation of the value of who God is. We by ourselves are incapable of appreciating Jesus at full value, but as you draw near to him, the Holy Spirit is the one who begins to impart into you. Do you know what you have? Do you actually know what you have? Do you actually know who it is that you talk to at night? Do you actually know who it is that receives all your mail and looks at it and sees the misspellings, the fact that you only had 2 scriptures in there, and he sees, oh wow, look at the huge payoff. This person wants 2 scriptures. How am I going to work this out? Because 2 scriptures, just 2 Bible verses, but then asking for a house. And this person loves you enough to try and say, let me get a message down there that houses are now very highly valued. And she knows that because she lives on earth. She lives on earth and she knows that the price of real estate is going up. So I think I'm going to have to get a message to her somehow through someone, maybe her coworker, maybe her mother, maybe someone's going to strike up a conversation with her as she's on her morning commute, talking about the price of houses and what he's doing or what she's doing. And then she'll understand, like, wow, there's a lot more work that goes into praying for a house than just bringing 2 verses about, oh God, you said you will provide all my needs according to your riches and glory. And oh God, you give shelter to the weak. Maybe she'll get the point. People who are out there with no relationship with Jesus, people who are out there with a weak relationship with Jesus, people who are out there with a fake relationship with Jesus, these people are going to replace you when you get out of the probability pool. I can guarantee you that for every woman who listens to this type of thing and thinks, I need to actually tighten how I'm working, how I'm walking through life, I actually need to tighten what I do. I had a talk with the people I pray with, and I strongly reprimanded them. I strongly reprimanded them. I strongly reminded them that real life happens to everyone. I told them real life happens to prophets. Real life happens to the prophets in the Bible, and real life happens to prophets who walk outside now. I said real life happens to intercessors. Real life happens to women who jump on prayer lines and call down fire. And then that same person can call my cell phone, hiccuping, unable to talk, choked up with emotion, broken, because they're calling me from the police station. I said, wisdom and awareness is necessary.
At the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are walking in faith, striving for righteousness, man, and staying out the way of all the evil things that are going on inside this world. Hey, everyone has a thought and opinion. Make sure you drop down in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about this video. Hey, see y'all next time.